guys, hope you're all doing well, hope you're all keeping safe. Apologies for my hair, I'm actually at work at the moment and I'm fitting this video in for you guys during work, so yeah, just excuse everything you're seeing on camera. Just listen to my voice, that's probably better for you guys. This video is a further extension to my last two videos where I'm gonna kind of share even more details about Heartlands. So this is your spoiler warning, as usual. Drop a like and get out. If you want to kind of go in blind. For anyone who is still staying though, today I've got details on specializations, crafting, attachments, and a bit more than that. As always, this information has been obtained from Reddit, a public forum, and provides details on the closed test for Heartlands. So it's obviously subject to change because this is an alpha closed test, so it's very early on. With that said though, subscribe and turn on notifications to stay up to date with all my videos. And let's get into some more leaks. Alright, so far I think I've covered quite a lot in terms of the leaks that we that are out there in the wild. And I would highly recommend you go check out my last two videos where I've covered many things in the game, the two new modes that are coming and all of that sort of stuff. I won't go into details now because as I said, you can go and watch those two videos and you'll get up to speed. Today I wanted to go over some stuff that obviously we've not talked about, some new stuff that no one's talking about, but I want to cover it here in today's video so you guys know exactly what to expect from this game, at least from the alpha. So to start off with, specializations. Now, I think there's a divide in the community around whether people preferred how specializations worked in the first division and how they worked in the second one. Personally, myself, I preferred the specializations, how they worked in the first one. I don't even think they were called specializations, I can't even remember, but I preferred, they were called signature skills, I believe. So I preferred signature skills over specializations. Here in Heartlands, we are getting specializations. Now, it does appear that agents will have skills that are tied to those specializations. These specializations are shooter, medic, and survivalist. Each one having its kind of own leveling system, at least from what I've seen. I don't know what it goes up to, and I also don't know whether if you reach a certain amount of those levels that you unlock another perk. I don't know that much at this point. I just know that they have their own leveling system and there appears to be skills tied to them. Each specialization has unique craftables, and that's usually dependent on the role that the specialization fills. And it also appears each specialization has perks too. I believe a couple of perks that I've seen so far are, I think, a full reload on sliding, or if you do a combat roll. Another perk is you remain hidden from scanners whilst you're in cover, or when you have full armor. As I said at the start, these are subject to change, but from what I've seen, these are at least two perks that we know of so far. Specializations are actually locked at the beginning of a match. I believe that's in storm mode only. You're allowed only one per squad. So in storm mode, basically what you have is it's 15 teams of 3-player squads. We don't know if there's solos or duos coming at this point, but it's likely they'll find support for that later on if players want that. And because you're in 3-player squads, you then have, and there's only 3 specializations, you each have to individually pick a specialization. You can't have 2 of the same. So you couldn't have 2 shooters or 3 medics, at least from the alpha guys. Remember that. So you couldn't have 2 shooters or 3 medics. You have to have 1 of each. I don't personally like that myself. That actually reminds me of, it's Apex Legends where you can't have 2 of the same character. So again, that's kind of reminds me of Apex, but I think in this game, I don't know if that's a good idea. We'll have to see if there's a beta for the game and we all get to play maybe an open beta. We can obviously test out and maybe they'll change that. But that appears to be how it's working at the moment. So those are all the details I have about specializations so far. Now, let's move on to rarity. This one's a quick one. So rarity is like the division, and I talked about this previously. It goes from greys to greens to blues to purples, and then you go to yellows or golds. And gold rarity or high-end rarity appears to only be found in supply drops, and they also have unique names to them, and I believe they come with high-end attachments as well. No particular details about what those attachments are, I don't believe at the moment, although I'm not sure if I actually written any details about it. I do have some details about attachments, so we'll get onto that. You know what, we'll just move on to that right now. attachments. High end, or the different varieties. The ones that we've seen are, well, basically you pick up these attachments, they increase your stats, similar to how it works in all the Division games. So far, I've seen a muzzle and a foregrip. Both seem to provide the same stat increase, like 5%, better handling, but it comes in rarities. So, for example, at green level, you'd have, say, 5%, blue, you'd have 10%, purple 15%, and then high end 20%. And at the moment, at least from what I've seen, there isn't anything to do with scopes being able to kind of toggle between increased zoom or not. So I don't know if that's something they're going to be adding into the game at a later stage. And aside from better handling, I haven't really seen a whole lot more in terms of attachment stats. So that's all we really have at the moment, but you can assume that they're going to take a lot of the same stats you would get from maybe the Division and Division 2 and add it into Heartlands, headshot damage, crit chance, all that sort of stuff. I imagine stuff like that is going to feed its way into Heartlands in terms of attachments. Now, in terms of weapons at the moment, the guns that I've been able to see are an M700, I think that's a sniper, a Disarus, it's a pistol, a Scar L, which is the Alexandrian. I actually said in a previous video this was an MK variant, but I believe it's a Scar L variant. There's a M1014, there's an MK48, SIG 7076. There appears to be a Chris Vesov. Don't know what that is. M1911, so that's a pistol. We've got an RPK, an AK-74, M14, a Mosin. There's an Uzi type weapon, double barrel shotguns, G36, KSG, P90, MPX, Stoner, LMG, Urban, MDR, Deagle, and there's a lot more. It does appear that all guns appear to have like historical names to them at when they're at certain levels. So I presume all of the weapons up until they reach high end will have their normal name. So, for example, Scar L would be Scar L all the way up till high end, and then the high end variant would have like a historical name. So, for example, or a named version called like Alexandrian. I don't know if there's a high end Scar L just called Scar L, and then there's a named variant as well. All I've seen is just the Alexandrian at high end, so it could just be that's only that in there. So those are basically the guns so far, and at least from what I've heard, all the guns in the game are the same as the guns that we got in the Division 2 at launch. So, well, I say at launch, but then the Stoner LMG wasn't the Division 2 at launch. I don't believe that came in later. So yeah, just is all the weapons you would expect to see in a Division franchise, basically. Moving on, NPC faction. So, as you know, if you've watched my other videos, there is Expeditions, which is kind of the co-op PvE mode. And this is PvE only, so there is NPCs, although in the Storm version, I believe there's NPCs as well. But the NPC faction are actually called the Pilgrims. The footage isn't that revealing because it was alpha footage, it wasn't the best footage in the world. But they're kind of like, they look like the typical kind of bad guys, right? The looters, the murderers, the typical faction from the Division. And at least from what we've seen so far in terms of what they look like, and that could change a lot, it looks like they're just like a mix of Outcast and kind of Riker faction design. And now that could just be alpha stuff, they're just putting something in there so that people can just test stuff out. That might change, but at least from so far, that's what they are. And also the voice lines from NPCs are very similar, if not the same voice lines from the Division 2 as well. So it does look as though they've just taken the assets from the Division 2 and put them into Heartland. The NPCs themselves, the grunts or the red bars have their typical kind of just health bar, while veterans they have armor as in the Division 2 as well, and the elites have armor and they're tankier and they just have better AI in general. So again, it's following the same AI pattern as the Division 2, and I don't think there's any surprises here, right? We expect this to come into this game. Just pull assets from here, put them over here. As well, it does seem as though some of the NPCs have skills. It looks as though a lot of the NPCs seem to be kind of really aggressive and kind of just don't really care for their lives that much. So kind of a mixture of outcasts and hyenas in many ways. Also, it looks as though they have healing grenades, possibly. I don't know that for sure, but there was a grenade that exploded and it had this kind of green mist, and it looked possibly like it might be spice from the Division 2, or it might even be something new like a healer grenade that the NPCs have. It may even be that agents have access to something like a healer grenade, which actually might be pretty cool, so maybe that would be good to have. Elites have, grenade launchers, they have miniguns, and as I said in a previous video, you can target kind of enemy weak points. So I don't think any of this is new, guys, but I guess me just confirming that this is what's in the alpha at the moment, you can see basically how it's kind of just take this stuff from here and let's put it into Heartlands, because it kind of works. Moving on, crafting station. So there is a crafting station at the base of operations, which is Rocket Rink, I believe it was called. Now the crafting station is used to craft pre-game bonus items that, when placed in a match, provide bonuses like scanners and infiltration spots. Now I assume scanners is they scan, and it's basically like a pulse. They scan an area and they'll pick up an enemy, or they'll apply a debuff, or whatever the case may be. Infiltration spots. So these are actually pretty cool. And I wonder if I've got the details on exactly how these things work. But these are very different, and I'll come back to it if I can find the details on these infiltration spots. But basically, what you can do is you can set an infiltration spot the match before, okay, in like an enemy spawn, for example, or near an enemy spawn. And then when match is over and you go into a new match, you can then select between your normal spawn area, or you can select the infiltration spot. And so you could spawn there, and you could already be in the enemy's kind of area, and it gives you that kind of their spawn bonus stuff as you're behind cover and stuff and whatever. And I thought that was a really cool idea, and you're going to see a lot about this. But there's stuff in this game where you can set stuff up, end the match, go into the next match, and then go back to that area. You could leave a crate of weapons and armor and go back in the next match and go to the area you left it, and it will be there. Very cool, in my opinion. So, as I said, one of these pre-game bonuses is an infiltration spot and stuff like that. And it's also this. The other thing I wanted to say with crafting as well is you can craft while you're running. It appears to take like less than a second. It's very, very quick for most items. And it's the same with applying items as well. If you want to apply items, then it's very quick to do, and you can do it whilst you're running as well. I do know that there is a mask that is a dedicated craftable, or the mask is a dedicated craftable. It runs out like it would in somewhat like Warzone in contaminated areas. From what I've heard, it does not run out as quickly as Warzone masks. Now, I've never played Warzone. It's not really something that interests me, but for anyone who does, who's interested in this game, you'll know what I'm saying here. The mask is the only kind of guaranteed protection against contamination. When you're in expeditions or you're in storm mode, you are constantly being contaminated. So this is why there's a filter system, same to Ghost Recon Breakpoint. And so you have to keep a mask filter on 24/7. That's kind of part of the game mechanics, as well as part of being in a group. Obviously, some areas of the map will be more contaminated than others. Isaac will kind of generally tell you when this occurs, plus you'll be able to see contamination areas on the map as well. And as such, if you go into these areas, then your contamination level will rise faster and your mask filter will fail faster as well. And this obviously becomes very obvious when you go into kind of it says here, the yellow contamination zones. Or if you're in the storm and you go in kind of the red storm area, then it's going to affect you much quicker, and then you're going to have to find a filter quicker. So these are the things that you kind of got to balance as you're doing this. It's very much survival-esque. The whole game is very much about survival. So that's one of the things that's coming into Heartlands. What I will say as well is that other stuff, gloves, from what I've seen, from the pickups that I've seen people getting from boxes, gloves, they actually decrease your crafting costs and they increase your crafting speed, at least for right now. I don't have any details on other stuff in terms of stats and that. And I do have a lot more information, guys. I'll say that. But I'm going to leave this one here, just because, again, as usual, I don't want this video to become 20-25 minutes long. I wanted to make this one a bit shorter. It is almost the weekend, and so I'm sure you guys don't want to hear me ramble on for too long. But in the kind of the next video, I'll talk about rogues, because they are coming back, or they are going to be in Heartlands. I'll talk more about expeditions. I can talk more about almost like there are some BR elements coming to this storm mode, like ping system and stuff like that. So we'll talk more about that stuff in the next video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think about these specializations. As I said before, I don't know what the bonuses are. I don't know what the perks are. I don't know how many levels there are within these specializations. I don't know if they work like, you know, like the Dark Zone levels where you reach a certain amount and it gives you get to choose between what you want, or I don't know how it works. All I know is there are specializations. There's 3 of them, and at the moment you each have to be one of those specializations, and you can't all be, say, shooter, or you can't all be, say, medic. And yeah, I mean, let me know what you think about specializations. Let me know what you think about the NPCs, the weapons, rarity, crafting, all that sort of stuff. Again, guys, I think this touches the surface. I think there's a lot more to a lot of this stuff that I've spoke about today. And so, as always, take it with a grain of salt, because we don't actually know really a whole lot at the moment. All we've got is some footage. That's about it. And all of this stuff comes from footage. So I could be wrong on a lot of this stuff, but I know I'm right on a lot of this stuff. So yeah, let me know in the comments. Thanks very much for watching. Hopefully you all have a good weekend. And until the next one, Epic out.